Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out from your busy Sundays and joining us here. Thank you, Masaret, for giving me this opportunity on your platform. I really do appreciate that. And I know it seems like you're taking time on a Sunday, but believe me, these little pockets of time that you spend is an investment in your in your relationships and your future. So I am so glad and honored that you all are present over here today. I'm going to start by talking a little bit. I just want to give you a little bit of a background. As Masara told you all, my name is Mama Khwaja. I'm also known as Mama Khwaja on Instagram. And so if you know me by Mama Khwaja, then you know me today that I am the face behind that. I'm a certified family mediator and a relationship expert. And I'm also pursuing further certification at the Gottman Institute. I am extremely passionate about relationships and obviously my area of expertise is family mediation. I want to start this conversation because that's how it's going to be. It's going to be a conversation between us, that this is a safe space. And I always like to acknowledge that at the beginning of our conversations. And the reason is because, relationships and marriage is a very, very private thing. And you're not always, people are not always open to sharing, for obvious reasons. But if you do want to send me a comment or a question, please feel free to send that to me directly through the chat. And I will make sure that I keep it safe and protected and not mention your names when I'm mentioning that on the platform. As I said before, that this is a reflective practice. That's what I like to do because just sitting here and hearing me speak, yes, you might take away something from it, but the whole idea is for you to look within yourself, and I will guide you within yourself to find the answers from within yourself as well. So please, I would really encourage if you're able to interact when I ask you questions, and that helps everybody. And on that note, since the topic is how to make your marriage thrive, I want you to take a quick moment and just think about the fact that where is your marriage at right now? Is it surviving? Is it striving? Or is it thriving? If you want to share something in the chat with me, I'd really, really appreciate that. So somebody wrote thriving, and I'm just going to give you a minute to whoever would like to answer. And once again, you can keep it direct message to me as well. It will give me a little bit of an idea what the audience, would like to hear. So I have a few thrivings, I have a few survivings, and don't forget striving, because that means that there are people out there who are trying and it's working. They're not where they would like to be, but you can see the effort. Wonderful. I'm loving the interaction. Thank you so much for doing that. Marriage is not something that comes easy. It doesn't come with a manual. And this is why I want us to take some time today to understand what marriage is, right? I always give my own examples because I feel like I'm comfortable sharing things. So as a young girl, marriage was just like this fantasy and this beautiful thing and very romantic and all that. But I want to throw this question back at you that when you think about marriage, what is the one word that comes to you instantly? Either today or when, when you were at the age of getting married, when you were younger. I know there's a whole range of audience over here. Some are probably in courtship, soon to be getting married. Some are probably into marriage. So I want to keep the content open for everyone. So whatever stage you're at, I'd like to maybe hear from you guys, all of you. What is the word that comes to you when you think about marriage? So somebody wrote companionship. I have understanding each other, partnership, another companionship, compromise. That's good. So marriage it's a very, very, you need to understand what marriage is. And marriage is something, a very sacred, very blessed relationship in your life that you can have. And the relationship that you have with your partner is one of the most important relationships. And the reason is because you spend a lot of your time with that with that person, right? So we need to understand exactly what is marriage. And to me, marriage is a partnership, like somebody just said. I'm getting words like sacrifice as well. But you need to understand that marriage has a very, very deeper meaning. Marriage is not just about being a companion or having a family. Marriage is definitely not the next step always, and it's not a tick mark in our life. Like, okay, I'm done, I've graduated, I'm getting married. Marriage is much deeper than that, and we are going to go through this different explanations of marriage as I go along. My next question back to you is also, what was your intention when you were getting married? Because I know what my intention was. And as a young girl, my intention when I was getting married was freedom. And I don't know if a lot of you would agree with that, but as a young girl coming from a Muslim family, and the way our cultural values are and our religious values are, I was the kind of person who wanted to travel and do things on my own and all that. And every time I'd ask my mom, and she'd be like, oh, shadi ke baad, after you get married, you can travel. After you get married, you can do this. After you get married. So in my head, I thought, oh, so when I get married, I'll get my freedom to do whatever I want to do. And as a young 20-year-old, the intention behind my marriage was not the best, I must agree, because once I got married, it was quite an awakening. Like, I was like, okay, where is my freedom? Because I thought I'm going to grow wings and I'm going to start flying. But guess what? That wasn't really happening, because I grew my wings according to me, and then they were clipped. So imagine how that might make you feel, right? And so knowing your intention, and for people who are already into their marriage, well into their marriage, just understand that if you didn't make an intention when you were getting married, that's okay. It's never too late. So you start today, and you sit with yourself today, and you ask yourself, what is my intention? Right? Allah always tells us, right, that everything that you do, you must make an intention. And something like marriage is huge. It's big. So we need to have an intention. And if we've not already made one, I think that today's the day that you sit and you make that intention, right? I'm going to move on and talk a little bit about, and this is just the kind of the intro into the topic. And I want you to think about these three things throughout the session today. Is the third thing that I really want you to think about is, based on where your marriage is today, where do you want to see it in the next time frame? So if you are surviving, to move from surviving to striving, your time frame should be shorter. And just picture, if you can close your eyes and picture yourself, it could be anything. And so keep in mind the third point, which is very, very important, is where you want to see yourself. Because once again, like, remember, the reason and the purpose of us being in this world is to be a better version of ourselves every single moment. And so we have to apply the same thing to our marriage, and we need to understand, okay, what can I do to make it even better than from this moment or from yesterday to today, right? So if you can just keep these three things in mind when we're going through the entire topic, it's going to help you stay focused on what you want to take away from here. Okay. So I'm going to move on to my next slide. And this is where I talk about the key points. And these are the key points that we're going to talk about. So we all know that relationship and understanding relationship is the foundation of a marriage. So before we even try and understand what marriage is, we need to understand what relationships are, right? Because that is the key. We need to understand our foundation. We need to create the foundation strong, and then we build our marriage on that. So in order for us to do that, what we really need to do is talk about relationships and what relationships are. Okay, so I'm going to share just a very, very simple definition of relationship. And please feel free to, interact with me in chats, because I like that back and forth, because I'm going to take a moment to read the comments and then I'll share that with you, because that's very important, because it's not just me presenting here. However many we are, we're all in this together. We're all a huge team, and the whole idea is for us to support each other with our wisdom and our thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to show you what relationships is. So relationship, the definition of relationship is the state in which two or more concepts, objects, or people are connected. That is one of the simplest definition of relationship, right? But what we need to talk about is what do we think about any relationship in our life right now? So when you can have, and we will start from the foundation. But when you think about relationships, I want you to take a moment and think about, what is one of the most important relationships in my life? I'm going to ask you that question right now. And I want you to tell me, what is one of the most important relationships in your life? I'm going to wait for everybody to start sharing. So somebody said relationship with myself. Yes. With God, with my belief in Allah. So I'm getting a lot of relationships with God. Relationship with parents. Yes. Very important. Very, very important. I'm just going to give a minute. Oh, my children. Yes. That's a very important one. So I'm going to move on. What about, okay. So somebody's asking about in-laws. Yes. So I'm really asking you, what is one of the most important relationships in your life? And with my husband, somebody's saying with my husband. Yes. So I'm going to share something with you now. And I want you to take a moment to read this. So uh, when I got married at 20 years of age, I had moved from Pakistan to Canada. And 20 years ago, there was no, phones and, like, and I was young and no, there were phones, but like you couldn't talk like you do on WhatsApp and everything right now. And at that time, I felt like, my husband was the most important relationship. And then soon after, we started having children. And we were so busy raising these children. And I would say at least 10, 11 years into marriage and having children, I realized that I was constantly trying to make a better marriage. And I want you all to know that, as the quote says, not all marriages are perfect, because they're made with imperfect people, right? And I kept doing that. I kept trying to make a perfect marriage, my relationship with my husband. And there were struggles. There were real struggles. So 12 years into my marriage, I actually realized that I was focusing on the wrong thing, because the relationship, one of the most important relationships that I should have been working on, which would have been the foundation of all my relationships, everything, was my relationship with God. And to be very honest, I used to pray, we used to fast, we were doing all the tick marks. But um my relationship with God was based on fear. And I made a switch, and I switched my relationship with God, being from fear to love. And as soon as I started rebuilding my relationship with God, everything changed for me. It was as if anything that was happening in my life changed. And the reason was because I started, instead of working on the branches, and like if you look at a building, the foundation, you have to have a strong foundation, and then you start building the multiple stories on it. And imagine if you keep building, you keep building, you keep building, and you keep burdening the base, but the foundation is not strong, what it is doing to it. That's how I was feeling. And the minute I went deep down into the foundation and I started building my relationship with God, all my relationships around me started flowing, started absolutely flowing, you know and that is what I really want to stress upon, is building that relationship with God based on love, based on trust. And we say, Allah, I trust you with my affairs, but we try to take things in our control a lot, right? And everybody goes through all these different things in their marriage, in any relationship. And I want to take a little bit of time right now to talk about relationship. And remember, relationship could be a relationship with just about anything. It could be relationship with food. It could be relationship with your coworkers. It could be very well relationship with myself, right? Like, I'll give you a little analogy is, for example, relationship with food. If we are constantly, like, I need to know what my relationship with food is. Is it good for me, or is it unhealthy for me? And so, same way, any relationship that we have, you need to understand what is your relationship with that, with your phone, with social media, um, and above all, with God. You need to take that time, and you need to sit with yourself, and you need to understand, you know ask yourself that question: what is my relationship with God? What is it based on? And that is key. If you can heal and rebuild that relationship, and make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala your best friend, believe it or not, I am telling you this, and I'm saying this from experience. I'm saying this from from my journey, that everything else will start falling into place. Okay. So that's where, like, I wanted to touch a little bit about relationships, and then understanding that, like the quote says, that there is no such thing as a perfect marriage, because it is made of imperfect people. Allah created all of us, uh, and He put us into this world so that we could be a better version of ourselves when we return back to Him. And so expecting a perfect marriage is in way setting yourself up for failure, because there is no perfect marriage, because there are no two perfect people who can create the perfect marriage. But the one thing, if we want any perfection in our marriage, is to have God in the middle, because only God is the perfect being. And He is the one who can guide us into any relationship, whether it is marriage, whether it is with your parents, whether it is with yourself, whether it is with your in-laws, or whether it is with your siblings. Any relationship that you have, as long as you're basing it on love and keeping it God-centric, everything will flow. Does that mean that every relationship will be perfect? Does that guarantee that there will be no hurdles? There will be no issues? No, there will be. And why they are placed there is because there is a lesson that you need to learn. And that is what I try to do, is when I'm in a situation which is not favorable to me, I take a moment. If I'm angry about it, I'm upset about it, I take time to acknowledge my feelings. And I highly encourage you to do that. Whenever you're in any situation, you need to take a moment to sit with your feelings and acknowledge those feelings. And after you've done doing that, you need to just take one step and ask yourself, okay, what is it I need to learn from this situation? What is the message Allah is trying to send me here? Or what am I missing? So if you ask yourself that question, um, it will be hard. Sometimes the answer that comes from within is hard, but you need to hear that. And then you need to try to learn that lesson. I'm going to move on to my next slide. And, it's about intention and balance, right? Energy flows where intention goes. And that is another one of the key things in any relationship, is to have the right intention. And that's why, I asked you at the beginning, what was your intention when you were getting married? And I ask you that question today again, right now, because it is so extremely important. And it could be in any relationship. Once again, I'm going to go back to the food analogy, right? Like my relationship with food, for example, I never took any time to sit and think about it until much later in my life. And I realized that I had a very unhealthy relationship with food, because anytime I was stressed, I was eating, and I was literally eating my feelings away. And when I took the time to just think about my relationship with food, and I put an intention out there that, I want to eat and I want to enjoy good foods, but I was eating it for the right reasons. I was eating that food to give me nutrition and to give me pleasure at the same time. I was very mindful of what I was putting inside my body. And having that balance and having that intention is so extremely important, because you're again in and this is something that goes in everything. So if you are just eating, consuming things without having an intention and without having that balance, you're harming yourself, you're harming your body. Same way, when you're in a relationship, when you are doing any act, if there is no balance and intention in it, you don't realize the impact of that until it's too late. But take one thing today from your day, anything, and you ask yourself the question, what is it in my life today that I do where I don't have an intention for it? whether it's fixing your bed, whether it's cleaning, whether it is going out for a walk, right? Anything that you do in your life today, just as a simple thing, think about, is there anything in my life that I do that does not have an intention? And then think about, let's say, for example, your marriage, which is huge, which impacts such a huge big part of your life, because you live with this person, you're spending your life with this person, you are sharing children with this person, for example, through this person you're connected to your in-laws, and you know just the whole dynamic of this one relationship is so big. And imagine if you have not really made an intention and you have not tried to find a balance in it, right? So you need to take a moment and create that intention, and you start doing that little by little by little. It doesn't have to be big, and always remember, you have to take small steps. We're all here, believe it or not. There, everybody out there, maybe perhaps everybody who's sitting here is here for a reason, and they're all here on the Zoom call because they know that they can make their life better, they can make their relationships better. So take that time to understand and acknowledge that if everybody's families and everybody's relationship seems totally perfect to everyone, they're not always perfect. They're not always there. I am here today because I lived certain experiences in my life that taught me. And marriage takes work. Marriage takes a lot of work. It just doesn't happen. You cannot snap your finger and say, here, I got it. Because guess what? Marriage is, I'm going to go on to this slide, because guess what? Marriage is a partnership. It is not a sole proprietorship. And you need to understand that marriage is not about me, and me. Marriage is about us. We're together in this. And I am only speaking to you today because you're sitting here, and I'm hoping your spouse is here with you. Because you both parties need to understand this, that marriage is a partnership. Marriage is not a sole proprietorship. And in a partnership, you have a power balance. You share the profits, but you also share the losses, right? And we've talked about it earlier, that there are no two people in this world who are created perfect. The only perfect beings, and we all know that, is either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or it's the 14 Masumi. We're not perfect. So when I walk into a marriage, when I walked into my marriage, I walked in with my profit and my loss, right? I walked into my marriage with everything. So you need to take a moment once again to think and acknowledge that I am not perfect. And I am bringing my whole self into this partnership. And when I'm bringing my whole self into this partnership, that means that the other person is also bringing their whole self into this partnership. So when I want my partner to be tolerant of my issues, of my flaws, of my shortcomings, of my weaknesses, and I want my partner to be so compassionate about it, so understanding about it, and as it should be, so supportive about it, then we need to also understand that our partner also needs the same. Our partner, my partner, also my husband, my spouse, he also needs that same level of understanding, the same level of compassion and empathy. And also because we're raised in very different homes, we're raised in very different environments, very different family dynamics. So, and all those things shape us as a person who we are when we walk into a marriage. And at the end of the day, it's to support each other, be a better version of ourselves. It's really not only about, having just a companion, or starting a family together, because that's the next step. marriage is much, much deeper than that. And that is a huge different conversation to have, but in order for us to find that compassion and that empathy and understanding our spouse, our partner, we need to do this, which is understand each other's love language. And maybe a lot of you have come across this, but I really wanted to share this here in case, some people haven't. The most important thing that we can do is understand the love language. And before we can understand the love language of our spouse, we need to understand our own love language, which is very, very important. And that's where I'm going to shift from, working on that foundation, which is your relationship with God, moving into the relationship that you have with yourself. Because until you understand yourself, until the time that you accept yourself, until the time that you acknowledge the things that you can make better. I never like to say mistakes, or I never like to use the word flaws, because those are all negative things that we're attributing towards ourselves. I want to talk about what we can do better, because that is our purpose, is to come into this world and leave a better version of ourselves, when we do. So honoring yourself and giving yourself that time to understand and acknowledge yourself, understand the key areas where you can do better, and understanding what my love language is. And for me, my love language is, I would say, a little bit between acts of service and I would say words of affirmation. I'm going to put it out to you guys because I wanted it to be interactive and I kept talking, but I want you to answer in the chat what your love language is. Somebody said all 5. Very, very good. And you can always have, you don't necessarily need to have one. You can have more than one. Some people need a little bit of everything. And even that is very important, because again, we can't just have just the one thing. There should be balance. Gift giving and quality time, absolutely. And remember that, when we're talking about the love language, I'm even that in itself is a whole different session. But I can share two things with you. I can share a book. This is the book, and I can share that with you on one of my slides. And another thing that I can share with you is the link to. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to pull it up. There's a link to a quiz. So it'd be a really fun thing for you to do with your spouse today. If you grab coffee and maybe perhaps sit down and, do this little quiz together. It's called 5lovelanguages.com. It's a quiz. And you can do that with your spouse, maybe perhaps, and see, what your love language is. And it's funny. You'll see how, I'm trying to go back to my screen. I'm not that techie. My kids are more techie than I am. Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, I don't know what I did, and now I cannot go back to my screen. I think there it is. Okay, perfect. Yeah, we're back. So, so yeah, if you want to do the quiz, that's really good, but do it for yourself before you do it with them, because I want you to take that time to understand what your love language is. And I want you to give that for yourself. So if, for example, you're a person who likes acts of services, So I want you to take the time to do an act of service for yourself. If it is, for me, one of the acts of services is cleaning. I love cleaning, and when I have the house to myself and I'm cleaning, it makes me like it gives me so much peace. So in that moment, I'm not cleaning because I have to clean. I'm cleaning because I want to clean. For some people, it could act of service could be, oh, I'm going to buy myself a coffee today. So I drive and get myself a coffee. And the reason why I'm asking you to do that is because I want you to understand that it is very important for you to do those things, to speak your love language to yourself, because your relationship with yourself after your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is one of the most important relationships that you can have, because guess what, you're building that foundation. So you build the foundation and then you lay the ground floor, which is very important, and that is you. And then you start building on top, and you can take that building as high as you want it to go. But remember, the most load is right on the bottom, right? So if your love language is quality time, and then you spend a few minutes with yourself. If yours is words of affirmation, you wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror, and you start talking to yourself, and you say, Zara, you look really good today, right? So don't wait for anybody else to say that to you, but you tell yourself that. Buy yourself a gift. It doesn't have to be an expensive thing. It is whatever thing that brings you pleasure, right? It could be a pen. Like, I got this pen for myself because I love the way it writes. And when I write, it gives me joy with this pen. So this pen for me is a gift to myself. And of course, physical touch is, what? Hug yourself, right? And or if you ask somebody, your children are there or your friends are there, say, you know what, can I get a hug? Because you're giving a hug, but you're getting one. You're asking, can I just get a hug? And hug somebody, right? So it could be so many different ways that you can speak your love language, and all those things are super, super important. So I know I've probably gone over time. I was hoping to keep this concise, but this is such a huge topic, and I'm hoping and praying that you're able to take something away, something significant, time worthy, that you were here with me for almost an hour. And I just want you to, as a takeaway, remember that you need to work on building that foundation. And that foundation is your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it could be any way. It could be, don't just conform yourself that the only way I can, have that relationship with Allah is when I'm reciting the Quran, or I'm reading the du'as, or I'm praying. That is key, and that is important, and that is significant. But you can literally be driving, you can literally be taking a walk, you can be doing anything, and you could be talking to Allah. And a lot of times I say this, and I know it's going to sound really silly, but I say this, I'm going to email Allah. I really need to send an email to Allah, because I really need him to take care of some things for me that are beyond my control. And just saying that takes this pressure off of me, and I'm like, oh, I've just sent that email up there, and he's going to take care of me. So try taking small steps to try, building that. Remember, intention is key. Anything that you do, even if I'm having my coffee this morning, my chai, sorry, making the intention why I'm having my chai, because I love the way it tastes, and it gives me a little bit of caffeine kick, and I'm awake, and I'm here for this session today, and finding the balance. All these things take time. Give yourself time, show yourself love. This is not easy, but it is possible. That is my takeaway for you guys for today. This is the book that we were talking about. It's called The Five Love Languages. It's available, I believe, on Amazon or bookstores, or you can get it online. I did share the link of the quiz. So that's a fun thing to do. Maybe you can do it with your partner, your spouse, your husband, your wife, and just it's a fun thing. You can do that. Understand your spouse's love language, and then try to show that to them. um, and very quickly, I wanted to say that I post a lot on Instagram. So if you like this content, you found this session helpful, you can, I post a lot on Instagram. And if I'm doing any other talks, I post that over there as well. I am still working on building my website, but if you go on my website, there are links to all my social media over there, for my YouTube channel. I mean, I'm a little bit slow. I'm doing this slowly, but it's there. All the things are there. And a very important thing over there is you can put your email in and sign up, because I've been preparing a session that's called Journey into a Mindful Marriage, that would be more deeper, and I would take you more inside yourself. And I will be launching that soon. So if you want to get more information about that, you can go on my website and just put in your email address and sign up so you can get information about that. And I will now throw it back for questions. Masara?
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to just stop the recording. Just if anybody's got any questions, it won't record for the questions as well. Yeah.